ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ, ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ. ಚಂಗಟಿ ಹಾದಿಲಿ ಚಂಡಮಾಯಿನ ಮರ, ಚಾಂಗಟಿ ಹಾದಿಲಿ ಚಂಡಮಾಯಿನ ಮರ, ಗುಂಡದ ಸುತ್ತ ಗಿಳಿ ಹಿಂಡ ತಾಯವ್ವ, ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ. ಗುಂಡದ ಸುತ್ತ ಗಿಳಿ ಹಿಂಡ ತಾಯವ್ವ, ನಾರಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಸೂತ ಸ್ವಸದ್ಯಾರ ಹಡದವ್ವ, ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ. Come my precious, let's sing the true word. The road to Chengti is lined with mango trees that look like marigold flowers. Beyond the trees I saw a pond which was surrounded by parrots. Just like that pond is home to those parrots, may you be that home for your daughters-in-law. I learned this song from my grandmother, Gundavva. Gundavva was an agricultural laborer and a leather worker alongside her husband. She and her husband, my Ajji and Ajja, were a Madiga or a Madar couple. That term, Madiga or Madar, is a term to denote communities that work with carcasses and leather. Now, Ajja Ajji moved with their son once he could support them from town to town, and they finally settled in Bangalore. I grew up around them, and I was very fortunate to be able to grow up witnessing their world alongside mine. Long after she's gone, my grandmother, the songs that she's taught me are like windows to her world. This song that I sang to you, Bare Nanna Ratana, it's a work song. We sing it when you pound grain or crush masalas. Now the song is non-performative because there's nobody sitting and watching them, and they're not artists. The song is dynamic, however. Women are basically singing to each other about their lives, wishing each other well, whining to each other, warning each other, capturing their memories this way. And in this song, there is this memory to this road to Chengti. Chengti or Chengta, if you Google it, is about 35 kilometers from Mudbi, the village that my grandmom and granddad lived in. And that road is about 9 hours, 8 to 9 hours walk if you did it without a break. Couples, families, with their chicken, goats, babies in hand, they would go to Chengta, to this dargah called Mastan Khadri Dargah, Sufi shrine, for their first tonsure and ear piercings. And then slaughter their livestock and have a feast after. There are many such shrines, Sufi shrines in North Karnataka region, where Dalit communities, their families, would march to these places of worship. Why? Because they did not have access to places of faith in their own village. So, a very strong connection with these Sufi saints was built. So much so that there are children in my community, like my granduncle, who were named after these saints because they were believed to have been born by the grace and blessings of these saints. My granduncle's name was Ismail, and his father's name was Husseini. For my grandmother, this song has so many memories associated with it. Memories of labor, multitudes of labor. The physical act of labor, the actual work over which they sang, the labor of faith, that long march to Chengti, labor of caste and labor of gender. It's collective memory, not just her memory, out of which these songs were drawn. And that collective memory is what I think we can call folk culture. Folk culture, I've visualized it to be this dream. This large, fluid, ever-changing, adapting dream. Not the dream of an individual, but the dream of a group of people who share language, caste identity, location, a community. A community's collective dream, and this dream encapsulates their experiences, their aspirations, their histories of humiliation, purpose, values, and more. And the manifestations of this dream are songs, instruments, music, dance, theatre, ritual, myths, food, clothing, and more. But who owns this dream? Who owns folk music? Now, Ajji knew many songs. She knew lullabies, baby shower songs, oiling rituals for brides, for women who had their first period, work songs like this grinding, pounding, winnowing, harvesting, and the songs that she heard at performances. All of those songs have come to be known as folk songs, along with songs that people sang in other communities, in other languages, in landscapes that Ajji had never seen or heard of. Folk songs. Folk songs cover so much, and folk music covers that much more. So let's kind of look at what folk music is not. Folk music is not popular. It's not globally or nationally popular. It's not institutionalized. It's not recorded. It's not classical. It is not designed for the proscenium. And in the Indian context, it is practiced by people who live beyond the mainstream. I would argue that most music in India that has been labeled folk music is not practiced by dominant class or caste of people. There is music out there which is traditional music, which is also clubbed with folk. There is folk which is being designed for proscenium, being taught in schools. There is also folk that's going through its own journey, stepping out of people's bodies. I'm not talking of that folk music. I'm talking of the folk music that is clearly not Savarna. Now, between the time Ajji sang this song at work and my singing this song to you here today, a lot has changed. The world has changed. The market has entered. Everything can be commodified. You have license, copyrights, royalties, all of this that make this concept of ownership more and more tangible. The other thing that has changed from her time to my time is my family's social standing. I speak English. I was educated in a convent. I studied abroad. I'm city bred. I have reaped the benefits of reservation. Not directly. It's the son of an untouchable Madiga couple in Mudbi who availed the benefits of reservations and became a bureaucrat, who could then send his daughter abroad to study. I have enjoyed social mobility. Yes, I have. But families that enjoy the social mobility and financial standing of my family are very few and far between in our community. And voices, Dalit voices in cultural spaces are fewer and further away. But Dalit narratives, stories, our cultural properties, it's not unseen or unheard of. People are doing it. Within theatre, within film, I'm sure everyone sitting here has heard something folk which is not done in a folk space. So, yes, it's being done, but our perspectives, our representation, our imagination is so scarce. Now, I'm a Dalit Bahujan artist. And with my privilege, I've tried something. I tried to reclaim the forms of my ancestors. This one form of the telling of Renuka Yellamma's story. Mainly, it was privilege that helped me distance myself, or it distanced me from the stigma our communities face of having generations of women being initiated into the Devdasi system against their will. They are called Jogammas of Renuka Yellamma. Joga means to beg, to busk. The buskers, the women buskers and beggars of Yellamma carry these instruments called the Shruti and the Chaudki. These are the instruments that I use today to perform the Renuka Yellamma story. It's been 8 years. I have traveled the length and breadth of the North Karnataka region looking for artists, looking for Jogammas, Jogatis, trans women who taught me this story, who helped me look at different perspectives in this story. And today I perform them. And the Jogati family, the group of Jogatis who live in Bellary, who I've worked with over the last 8 years, they started off as a community contact, but they're not community contact anymore. They're my family. They're the women in my family. And they're the ones who helped me with this art form come out as a Dalit with pride in my art practice. Now, privilege, it started with privilege. This whole process of being able to become an outsider, watch it from a distance, come and reclaim something which has belonged in my family history. It started with privilege. But privilege does not come without its baggage. It's a baggage of uneasy questions. Many uneasy questions. I'd like to list out my top 3 uneasy questions. The first, if caste exists in the body, how much of this caste is a lived experience for me? How much of it belongs in my body? How much of it in my mind? If folk culture is this dream that I imagine it to be, am I an insider or an outsider to the community dreaming this dream? And the question that can keep me up at night, am I appropriating? Yeah, I said the word appropriation. Cultural appropriation is extremely complex to address, especially in terms of folk music, especially in India. Why? Because the caste and gender hierarchies are so varied, so nuanced across the land. Then you have the religious beliefs that are intertwined, then you have the urban and rural divide, then you have industries, politics, it's endless. But hear me out, I'm going to give it a shot. If we all agree here that the market has entered and everything can be commodified, these products, theatre, dance, music can be commodified. They can be seen as products. Though logic would state that these products would be owned by the community from which folk culture it came from, who is really benefiting from these cultural properties? If it's not the community or people from the community, does it qualify as cultural appropriation? Now, I am not a Jogamma. I'm not a Devdasi, I'm not a Jogati, but I have benefited more than they have, this community has, over the last 8 years practicing this story. That's been the really painful revelation. That they will not benefit the same way as me because of my privilege and because of my access. So I believe that the biggest issue, the problem that we face in addressing cultural appropriation is this illusion of being classless or this illusion of being casteless. When someone with privilege, especially a creator, does not address their privilege, they can assume to be a part of the folk. And when that happens, you can draw from something without the need for acknowledging. I'll simplify it. The illusion of being casteless or classless can give rise to this illusion of belonging. It's happened with me. But I also believe that all appropriation, actually most appropriation if not all, starts with appreciation. It's about falling in love. That tune, that melody, that design, it's about falling in love. You don't fall in love with the entirety of someone. Now, it's in the making, it's the production of a particular art piece. In that production is where the appreciation and love goes missing. It goes overlooked. Why? Because the market doesn't care. It doesn't care about this distinction, appropriation, appreciation. But shouldn't the creator? Shouldn't the audience? Maybe they don't know the difference either. That's the feeling I get. So, the market, though it doesn't care, will change the way we interact with one another. Is it going to be a transaction or a relationship? Somehow is dictated by the market. And that has been my fear. These women, my sisters, my Jogati sisters, are not a transaction that took place. It's a relationship that I built. And to be able to make sure I'm on the right side of this appropriation scale, I've come up with a toolkit. I call it the Appreciation Toolkit. Very TED. It's called the Appreciation Toolkit of 4 C's. Co-create, contextualize, credit, and compensate. Co-create not just with the artist, but their ecosystem. Let them have a say in the decision making. Contextualize. You educate yourself. Figure out the themes in this song or this particular piece. So you'll be able to describe better how your context and the song met. How did this happen? Contextualize. Credit generously. Don't stop with a special thanks. Hell, contextualize the crediting. You can do that on social media. Pages and pages of you saying thank you. I have earned culturally, financially, socially from this work. And the last is to compensate. And that's a complex one. Who do you pay? How much do you pay? But if you have formed a real relationship, the people you have worked with will tell you what the needs of that community are. Now, this toolkit is not exhaustive. And I think it doesn't cover every sensitive situation, but it's a start to a dialogue that is missing. A dialectic dialogue that is missing. I believe this toolkit can also be applied in retrospect, which happens with some of us who've made the mistakes and come back and thought of reparation. I believe this toolkit can be applied not just by artists, but also audience. When you all ask the pertinent questions, we will learn to answer them. And I will leave you with this. The song Bare Nanna Ratana. It's not my song, I don't own it. My grandmother doesn't own it. My family doesn't own it. It is a piece of unwritten history of my community. You can't own it. For that matter, I can't own it either. My breath, my voice, my body can house it momentarily. But it has the power to encapsulate all our stories. And this ability to be able to share worries, my worries and stories along with Ajji's makes this song so special to me. So these are my lines to Bare Nanna Ratana. ನನ್ನ ಮೈಯಾಗಿನ ಹಾಡ ನಿನ್ನ ಮೈಯಾಗ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಾನು ಪಾಠ ಪಾಡ ನಿನ್ನ ಬಾಯಾಗ ಬರಲಿ ನಾವು ಪಾಠ ಪಾಡ ನಿನ್ನ ಬಾಯಾಗ ಬರಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ನನ್ನ ಹಾಡ ಕೂಡಿ ಹಾಡೆ ತಂಗ್ಯವ್ವ ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರಮಪುರ ವಚನ ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರಮಪುರ ವಚನ. Come, take this song that has lived in my body. Let me hear you voice our histories in your voice, in your breath. Won't you sing together with me, sister? Both our plights. Come, my precious, let's sing the true word. Thank you.